Even as the world reopens, the pandemic continues to have a pretty significant impact on individuals and businesses, and the insurance industry is no exception. Since March of 2020, shares of the insurance majors have seen shares plummet, but as the virus started to fade this spring, those shares have bounced back to new highs. Joining us right now to talk about the current state of the insurance business and the reopening is Dan Amos. He's the chairman and CEO of Aflac. And Dan, it's great to see you. It's been a while since we've gotten to talk to you. How are things going right now?
Well, Becky, things are going as well as you could expect. Our profits are at an all-time high, and we were able to adjust to where our employees, almost 95%, were working from home and continue to do that. So I would say all in all, we're very happy in our ability as businesses to take a punch of COVID and be able to come back. So I'm very pleased.
What are you seeing in consumer behavior right now, just in terms of who's going back to the doctor, what kind of claims you're seeing, and how does that compare in the United States to Japan, where you also have a huge business?
Well, it's a little slow in terms of people returning to the doctor. We believe there's still a potential out there for future claims. With our actuaries, we've been calculating that that we will see more and more people return to the doctor. And one of the things that we worry about in the insurance industry is, for example, with cancer, that people didn't go for over a year. And unfortunately, some of them would have been diagnosed in the early stages with something like cancer or some other serious illness. And then they would be, instead of stage 1, they could be in a much higher stage, which ultimately would cause all types of problems for them medically, but also financially, it would run the cost up dramatically. So, but the good news is we've prepared for that. We have reserved accordingly, and we're watching that to see what happens this year as things move more back to normal, I would say.
Hey, Dan, how much of the drop in doctor's office visits is because of the doctor's offices themselves? I tried to get in to see my doctor last week. I had a bit of a cough. I had just gotten a negative COVID test because they test us at work. I'm fully vaccinated, and the doctor still said they wouldn't see me because it was a respiratory nature.
I really don't have the numbers on that, other than to know that we're not seeing any trends that we've noticed of any significance. I had to go to my doctor not too long ago just for a checkup and had no problems. And I specifically asked him about it. And, our biggest discussion was just, getting everyone to take the vaccine.
Where do things stand in the United States versus Japan? We keep hearing about the problems Japan is having ahead of the Olympics. How would you measure consumers and consumer behavior between those two nations?
That is a great question, because it is so different. The Americans work more as individuals, and the Japanese work much more with a group mentality. And so we tend to see that if we start at the exact same plane, that the Americans will jump out ahead with 20% of the workforce being very aggressive and moving forward. And then the herd, as I call it, 60% will then come on board. And then the final 20% are laggards, and they're slow in moving, and basically you've got to force them. On the other hand, with the Japanese, they tend to not move at all. They meet, they discuss, they come up with a plan, and boom, all of a sudden they're at 80, 90%, and they then pass the U.S. So what I think you're right now seeing is they're in that stage of boom. They're now vaccinating somewhere between 600 and 800,000 people a day. They say they will get above 1 million, and I have no doubt about that. And basically, everyone in that group society is moving as a herd and getting it done. So I look for the Olympics. Now, this is just a personal opinion, but I look for the Olympics to take place. I look for there to be very few problems, as they're masters at doing that. And I believe that they have handled the pandemic as best for their society that they could possibly do. And we, on the other hand, have been working hard on handling the problem ourselves in the U.S.
Dan, we have the Federal Reserve meeting today, and rates have been kind of unbelievable. Treasury rates have been kind of unbelievable to watch. Still, the 10-year yielding below 1.5% this morning, even in the face of all this inflation. And I just wonder what a big insurer like you does. Insurance companies have to put a lot of money, have a lot of money on reserves, have a lot of cash on hand. Traditionally, it's deployed in places like the Treasury market. Are you doing things differently these days, and what do you think the Fed will do today?
Well, you know, our biggest concern, when people say to me, well, what do you worry about most in the insurance industry or the financial services? Interest rates. And what are you going to do? And in the past, as we've seen it continue to go down in the U.S., remember, it's been that way for almost 20 years in Japan. And so we've had to deal with that. And we've had to come up with creative but extremely safe ways to do that. And it has not been easy. And our yields have come down over the years, but one of the things that we've done is new policies we've had to reprice at higher rates because of lower interest rate environments.
Wow.
Right now, it's stable and very low, and we're hoping that, you know, we'll see a little movement. But I don't believe the Fed's going to do anything right now, but I'm not an expert in that area. I just take orders once I find out what they've done.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.